Hello, and welcome to the Working Wednesdays broadcast. I am your host, Audra Hurd. So excited about our show tonight. I have some absolutely wonderful guests who are coming on to share with us this evening. So do me a favor, like, share, tag the video, get someone on who needs to hear a life-changing and encouraging word. We have the lead author for the book Life After. She is with us tonight, along with her sponsors for this project. I am also a sponsor for the project as well. I was able to contribute marketing for this particular project. So I'm so excited to have her on. She is going to come on and share her testimony, her journey of what she has gone through for the last 30 plus years. So I know she has some exciting stuff to share with us. So don't hesitate. Get someone on, tag someone in the video, like, share, get someone on tonight. All right. So I do want to start off by saying Happy New Year again. I know I said it last week, but we are still in the midst of a new year. So Happy New Year to everyone. I hope your new year is getting off to a great start. I hope you are crushing your goals, as they say, checking some stuff off the list. Yes, it's only the 12th day of the year, but you can still be checking off those goals, okay? Especially excuse me, especially if your goal is to become a published author this year. So you're always welcome to visit us on the web at ibgpublications.com. You can visit us, submit in the contact form. Let us know you're interested in our services and what we offer. You can also find us across social media. All platforms, we are IBG Publications, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as well as YouTube. We do have a YouTube channel where we feature our interviews that we will have here tonight. So do us a favor, go over there and subscribe. Let us know you heard about us in a live video. If you've never listened to this particular broadcast before, we just specifically showcase authors as well as business owners. So if you have a business or if you have a book you'd like to share, get some exposure, you're welcome to visit our website. On the very first page, the home page, if you scroll down, there's a tab where you can fill out and let us know you're interested in being on the show. We are going to be taking a hiatus for a while because we've got to shift gears for the new year. But we will be accepting guests when we launch back up later on this year. But if you are interested in coming on and sharing, you're more than welcome to fill out that form and let us know you want to be on the show. All right. So I do want to acknowledge those who are on already. I see Nanny Roseby. Good evening. God bless you. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're happy to have you. Do us a favor, share the video, let someone know that we are on. All right, so we're not going to hesitate tonight. We're going to go ahead and get our guests up. Each guest will introduce themselves individually so you get to know who they are and what they do. All right, so let's go ahead and get our guest on tonight. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
How's everybody doing this evening?
Wonderful.
Doing well. Thank you for having us.
You're most welcome. So we're going to take some time and allow everyone here to introduce yourself, tell everybody what you do, who you are, and all that kind of good stuff. I like to be informal, so as however you feel like sharing, go right ahead. So let's start with Clarisse, my very special guest tonight. Let's start with Clarisse. Come on, tell us a little bit about yourself tonight.
I am Clarisse Jordan. I am the lead author for Life After. I am a daughter. I am a sister. I always tell people I'm a minister, but I am also a woman, African-American woman that has been living with HIV for nearly 40 years. So that's who I am.
Nice. We'll get into your inspiration for the book, but thank you for joining us, Clarisse. We appreciate you being here. Sean, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you again for having me. I'm Sean DeYoung. I'm a friend of Clarisse, but I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Allies for Health and Wellbeing in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And we're the biggest and oldest HIV/AIDS service organization in Western PA, and we provide supportive services to people living with HIV, about 700 to 800 people in our region, as well as really working to stop the transmission of HIV and other STDs in our region.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you so much for the work that you do for our communities to make us a safer place. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, Tanya. Let's hear from Tanya this evening, my girl.
Good evening. My name is Tanya DeFreitas. I am an international best-selling self-published author. I'm also the founder and CEO of Love Wins Publishing and the founder of the International Association of Women Authors. I have had the pleasure and honor of helping Clarisse to birth this amazing and powerful vision and working very closely with everyone that we see here. So I'm excited to be here and looking forward to the impact that this project is going to have on the local community, but also the world.
Nice, nice. Thank you for joining us this evening, Tanya. The three of us, for those who are not aware, we were sponsors for this project. So we all had the opportunity to have a hand in this getting out. I was the marketing sponsor, so I have been blessed to be able to have a hand in this project as well. So let's jump right on in. Clarisse, go ahead, tell us what inspired you to do this project and how has it been changing your life?
Well, what inspired me to do the project is that first I participated in a anthropology project with Tanya and Love Wins Publishing, and it was Brutal Courage, the remix. And after I did it, I found that even though I have been sharing my stories for many years, I found it gave me an extra layer of healing and just things that I thought I had overcome. Writing the story, I found out that I had not, and I was able to deal with it. And so I wanted that for the HIV/AIDS community. I wanted us to be able, I wanted to provide a safe place for people living with HIV to tell their stories and to experience the same healing that I experienced, but also to show the world that we are overcomers. People living with HIV, we have been through some very traumatic things, and we have overcome and got to acceptance. And so that was my inspiration for it. When I initially put it to Tanya, I didn't know how I was going to get the people to write the book. But I called Tanya and I said, Tanya, I have this idea for a book. And I went to telling her how I wanted it to be with all HIV positive people to give them a chance to heal. But I wanted to do it where they would be comfortable telling their story and not have to deal with any stigma. Their confidentiality would not be broken any kind of way. And when I said it, she said, "Oh, sis, this is wonderful." And I just kind of, she walked it through with me. I went to some media platforms that I'm on with other HIV positive people and just kind of put the ideal out there. And before the day was over, I had like 20 people inboxing me that wanted to be a part of it. Now, of course, all 20 did not participate, but I had that many people wanting to participate, and I'm still yet getting calls for people that want to participate and are telling me the next book, please include me, please, So that was my ideal for the book. That was my inspiration behind it all. I just wanted to give a safe place for people like me to write and tell their stories and experience healing.
Yeah. You said a lot of key factors there. Are you able to talk about some of the traumatic events? I know you said you've dealt with some traumatic events over the years. What are some of the traumatic events that you've dealt with? And this is just to kind of help people understand. what your life has been like for the last 30 something years.
Well, I got HIV when I was 16 years old. I found out that I had it when I turned 18. So that's traumatic right there.
Yeah.
Just the diagnosis
that
of
young.
being, yes, HIV positive, when you have your whole life in front of you. And when I was told that I had it at 18, the doctor told me, she said, "You're HIV positive. You'll die by the time you're 24. Make an appointment at the front desk." There was no, soothing it or anything. So that, then the stigma alone is trauma. At first, my family didn't accept it that well. So that was a trauma. I started getting sick. I was only 30 years old when I started getting sick. And I was sick from 30 till 40, in and out of the hospital. So that's trauma. I've been in the hospital over, 300 times and literally told that I was going to die 12 times, and told to go and make my funeral arrangements. So all of that is trauma. The trauma of having to go from being healthy to taking, I was at one time taking 39 pills. I was on, you all are seeing me, when I'm well. I was on oxygen. For about 4 or 5 years, I was completely bedridden, where I had nurses and things coming in to take care of me. I've been told that I'm a deck of cards waiting to fall and a ship waiting to derail, so that's just that's my trauma. And, there are people that are living with this that have been through worse, what I have been through, but that's just a little bit of the trauma, the trauma alone of being told that you're HIV positive and trying to navigate through a system, and trying to learn how to adjust to living in a world now when you have been given a diagnosis like HIV. And when I got it in the 80s. It was just 1989. And so it was definitely a death sentence then.
Yeah. Wow. I hear fighter all over you. Fighter. I mean, to be told so many times, you go plan your funeral. Yeah, that's traumatizing all to itself. And I just see fighter all over you, because to look at you, we would never know. We would never know, you just look so beautiful. I have to say that.
Thank you.
Just hearing your story and hearing your journey and what you've been through, you're just glowing, to still be alive, even after all of those death sentences and being bedridden. That's a long time to be sick for 10 years straight.
Right.
So I just commend you for staying in the fight of life and just being a hope, for someone else. I want to bring Sean into the conversation because I know you provide support to people like Clarisse. So let's talk about some of the support you help give.
Right. So, Allies, we were previously the Pittsburgh AIDS Task Force, provides supportive services to individuals living with HIV. And that ranges from medical case management services, helping people manage their HIV, getting to the hospital, reminding folks to take their meds, helping people get on their medication. We provide other supportive services like housing assistance or emergency financial assistance. We have a food pantry to help folks out if they need a little extra food every month. Transportation assistance. So there's a wide variety, and we have also have a pharmacy program, and more recently we've opened up a health clinic. So we have a lot of services to wrap around. I should also add, more recently we added behavioral health services as well, so for people living with HIV. So we try to wrap around the whole person as best we can, to really be a safety net for folks, to make sure that they can stay healthy, stay on their medication, be in care, so that we can help people get their viral load down. And now the CDC lets us know if we can get people into care on their medication and get their viral load to an undetectable level, they can't transmit HIV to anybody else. So, and that in turn helps people live a long life, so that it's not the death sentence that it was back in
Yes.
the 80s when Clarisse got HIV. So, and when I think of you brought up fighter for Clarisse. I mean, there's a number of different adjectives we could use.
Hmm.
Resilience is one that I think of quite
Yes.
a bit, and perseverance,
Hmm.
and inspiration.
Yes.
All of those things wrapped up are just give people hope. And Clarisse gives people hope and encourages people to stay focused and to stay healthy and to keep at it. And she's just a blessing.
Yes, yes. I do have to ask a question, Sean. Has it been challenging to continue providing services through the pandemic? Has it been more challenging, or what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, especially with who we're trying to serve, and with, like Clarisse being immunocompromised, that's obviously a huge concern. We know that
Right.
the information coming out is people that are immunocompromised might need to get more than one booster once they're vaccinated, to
Hmm.
make sure that you're protected. And we have a lot of individuals that are in care that are a little bit skeptical about getting vaccinated. So,
Hmm.
we try to provide as much information as we can. But as far as the services are concerned, we've been pretty impacted. Our health services have stayed open, but it's really limited. We can't take walk-in appointments because of the pandemic. We have to limit the number of people coming into the space.
Yeah.
And Clarisse can attest to that. I mean, prior to the pandemic, people were coming and going quite a bit, coming into the food pantry. Um, so we have less people coming in. We do a lot more telehealth now, which is really great.
Yes.
But the food pantry took a big hit. We are what's considered a supplemental pantry. So people that need our pantry services might get food from the food bank, and then extra food from us. Just a raw numbers situation. We used to get about 8,000 pounds of food a month
Hmm.
from the food bank or from Giant Eagle. And now we get right in the middle of the pandemic, we are getting about 1,500 pounds of food. So greatly
Wow.
reduced.
Yeah.
So we had to resort to giving gift cards to the grocery store for people.
Hmm.
Um, but we've been trying our best. We've seen people really struggle to stay in their homes and to stay housed and to pay bills. And, it's been a big challenge for folks. And we've been fortunate enough to get some extra support from the state and from, the PPP loans that were out there, to
Hmm.
keep open and to keep providing support as best we can. I wish we could do more, but we're trying our best.
Yeah. Wow. So it's been a transition. It sounds like just working through the pandemic that still has not lifted from us yet.
Yeah.
Um,
Another big piece was just the face-to-face work has gone,
yeah.
really far down, where we might be able to pick people up at their house and take them to a medical appointment or see somebody face to face. And it's a lot less now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Hopefully that changes soon.
Wow. Let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk, Clarisse, about how putting the book together has impacted you, as well as those who have been co authoring with you. How has the book been impacting you all?
Wow. It has really impacted my life, but also my writers. Um, I actually did a survey with them after the book was completed, just asking them what they received from writing the book. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of my writers are still, not out to their friends and family, but
Mm.
they were willing to write in my book. And
Mm.
most of them said that it was an outlet to finally release their story,
Wow.
to tell their story, and they felt like now, they had some hope that their story, that if anything happened to them, that their story was told,
Yeah.
and that they weren't living in silence, even though they haven't come out to maybe their families and their friends. They're not living in silence anymore, and they were happy that they were able to do it where their identity wasn't compromised in any kind of way.
Yeah.
That was very important to me. And so, of course, hearing them say that just meant the world to me, because that's all I wanted. I just wanted to provide a safe place for people with HIV to share,
Yeah.
and I felt like we have stories that are, we have overcome some great things. And so I wanted to make sure, that we left a legacy to the world, that if any of us died or left here, that the world knows that we're here because it's written.
Yeah.
Our stories are told, whether or not they know who told it or not, our stories are told, and
Yeah.
people are going to get help from it, and that was my main thing. I wanted to be able to just impact the world, to let them know, HIV is here, but we are
Yeah.
overcomers.
Yes.
That's what I wanted.
Nice, nice. I want to bring Tanya into the conversation. And Tanya is the publisher for this project. And so, Tanya, talk about how assisting with this project, how has it impacted you?
Oh, wow. This is probably the 16th anthology. So I think I was a little more prepared for this one than the others. It is still trauma based, right? But working with Clarisse and even working with the co-authors individually, reading their stories, empowering. It was a reminder that we still need to make sure we are educating others
Yes.
about HIV and AIDS, and about healthy lives, right? And healthy lifestyles, because it is still there. And I even learned from Clarisse and some of the other co-authors. Sean mentioned this earlier about keeping the viral down, the viral load low, and being undetectable. Those are things that's new information for me. I didn't even know that it had reached that it, you know what I mean? The taking care of HIV patients had reached that level where they can literally be undetectable. They can test and it not show up. That's huge. And people need to be educated about it, because we still want people to get tested. We still want people to be safe. We still want people to not be afraid of getting tested and of sharing their status and things like that. So it's been empowering and enlightening to learn the education end of it. And I'm just grateful to be a part. I'm grateful to work with allies and work with Sean and his team. I'm looking forward to the book launch. I'm hoping all of us can get together, including you, Audra, and fly out to Pittsburgh when they do the book signing launch, and get some heavy media involved, so that the book can go viral, the book can go international, so that we can get more people, more HIV, those living with HIV and AIDS, and even other ailments. I mean, I think we're just in a time where, especially with the pandemic going on, we're in a time where we need to talk about trauma. We need to address it. People need safe places. We need to know the organization as much to help, to support, and what those services are to support. So I think we've barely scratched the surface with this book. And I think if we continue to market, it's gonna make an impact that I don't even think we're ready for, but it's necessary. It's definitely necessary. As Clarisse said, there were a lot of people who signed up to be a part and they backed out, mainly to fear. I mean, we literally had people that Clarisse had to call. I called a couple of the ladies, we inboxed, to try to encourage them that it was going to be confidential, so it was safe to share, and what the goal was about the project, but they were still afraid. And so I think some of those people will circle back and join us on a future project now that they see what this project has done, and that it really was confidential. We weren't here to put anybody on blast, to make a mockery. It's really to educate, right? It's to educate, and it's to say it's called life after. We were diagnosed. Clarisse was told that she was gonna die. She's still here, and she's lived a prosperous life in her own right. And so have some of these other individuals in the book, and those who didn't get a chance to share their story. So we want to create that picture. We want to change the view of it almost. We don't want people to look at the stick or look at it as being nasty, disgusting, or whatever. It's no different than somebody having cancer or catching some other sexually transmitted disease or a disease that's transmitted through, sharing needles with drug use. It's no different. And even the life, being able to live, it's no different. There are people who are married in the book. They're married. They've had children, and the children were born without HIV. So I think the education needs to be emphasized again. And it's been an honor. Like, I've learned so much.
Nice. One thing that's just coming in my spirit is that it's going to provide hope. When you said that there are people who have, been diagnosed, but yet they have had children who did not, get the diagnosis, that's hope. That science has progressed to the point that people can be confident that they don't have that death sentence. Like Clarisse is that example. It's not a death sentence in the sense of what it was years ago. So I am so excited that this is going forward. You said Pittsburgh, and so Pittsburgh is around my stomping grounds, Youngstown, Ohio. So when are we talking about the book launch? Because I'd love to come home for that.
We are still working on that, me and Sean. We actually were supposed to meet last week, but I got sick, so I had to quarantine. So hopefully we will be meeting within the next couple of weeks to set a date for the book launching, and hopefully the pandemic will corroborate so that we can have it. So we're still working on that. I'm hoping sometime this summer for sure.
Okay.
Well, we have to lay out all the logistics for that.
Yeah, this new Omicron variant sure did put a hamper on some things.
Exactly.
So hopefully we can get to a safer place where we can gather again. We want to make sure that we can get people in, and it's safe for people to be together. And we want to do that for Clarisse so that we can have maximum exposure so people see this. And I have to say, I just want to add, when we're talking about science and the U equal U, Clarisse brought up at one point she was taking 39 pills a day. And where we are science-wise is a pill a day now. One pill a day. Wow. And now there's injectable medicine for folks that are really adherent to their meds, that they can get an injection once a month instead of taking a pill every day. And pretty soon there's another brand new injectable that's going to be once every 2 months. So the science is really, really progressing, which is amazing, and it's because of, individuals like Clarisse that really, really has been out there and trying the new meds as they come out and persevering through this. She is the science, and the scientists are learning from people like Clarisse that have been living with HIV for so long. So it's just amazing.
Wow. I have to ask Clarisse, going from 39 to now 1, let's talk about how you feel, going from that extreme to where you are now. How do you feel?
Well, I take one HIV pill. That's wonderful, because the 39 pills were just my HIV medicines.
Wow.
But now, of course, I have other ailments because I am, in the category of HIV positive and aging. So wow. I have diabetes, and I have high blood pressure. I have some other things, and that have come from just, me aging, but also from me having HIV for so long. I have some things that have happened. So I take about with supplements and everything, maybe about 20 pills. So that's still good, because I was taking 39 plus, say another 40, 20 pills. So I was on like 40, 50 pills a day, plus inhalers and shots and things. So to only have to take one pill, that's just like, that's wonderful.
Okay.
That's a drop in the bucket. That's a walk in the park for me. So I don't have a problem taking that. And I actually am a person that would qualify to go on that injectable once a month, because I have been undetectable so long. My viral load has been undetectable pretty much my whole diagnosis.
Oh, wow.
And my T cell count is over 1900. So your T cells say how strong your immune system is. My T cells are pretty much stronger than a person that is not living with HIV.
Wow.
So
Wow.
Wow.
Now, when you say undetectable, does that mean that if you were tested, you would not come up? I just want to educate myself and who's ever
no.
listening. Okay.
And Sean, you chime in too. Undetectable means that they do a blood test that actually counts how much of the virus is in what is it, a microliter of blood?
Yes.
And if it is less than 50, the count of 50, you are told that you are undetectable.
Correct.
It does not mean that you don't have it. So if they were to test you for the virus, you would still come up that you were HIV positive.
Right.
Undetectable, it means just that, undetectable. So that means you're taking care of yourself. But it also means because you're undetectable, it is untransmittable. So
Yes.
if I was
Okay.
to have, and I'm just going to be frank, unprotected sex, I would not pass it to my partner, to my husband.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's what that means.
Yeah.
Wow.
And for years, the focus was to get people virally suppressed, which is below, when we're throwing numbers out, 200 microliters of the virus in the blood. And so below 50 is really, really not a lot of the virus in the blood. So yeah, it's for Clarisse to be suppressed for so long and now to be undetectable, and being undetectable for so long is testament to her taking care of herself and staying in care and going to her doctors and taking her medication. And, and individuals like Clarisse, unfortunately, just being positive for so long, with having HIV in the system and the medications that Clarisse had to take early on, were really damaging to the body.
Yeah. Yeah.
So unfortunately for Clarisse, she has to cope with those, long-term
The other
effects.
ailments. So you're
Clarisse, I think when we first met, and I've been with the organization for over 6 years now, I believe you were still weaning off of the oxygen, but you were still struggling. And I've been able to see, since I've been with the organization, see Clarisse really, really become even more healthful, which has just been so great to see.
Wow. Wow. Talk about progression, with the progression of science, because of course there was a time that you would pass it if you had it. So to hear that, you've been suppressed enough that you would not pass it on, that's like miraculous. Like while you were talking, Clarisse, I was just like, you are such a miracle.
I am.
I was just like, the way you have aged, like you are the poster child of, this is not a death sentence. You are like, but you paid the price to be that though. When we talk about where you've come from and where you are now and what you've been through,
I really have.
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah.
I was 18 when I got this. I'm 52 years old now.
Wow. Wow.
Well, 16 when I got it, but 52 now. But there were many days that I didn't think that I was going to make it.
Yeah.
When they said, "Okay, just go. You're done." Pretty much, that's what the doctor said. You just go, prepare to die.
Yeah.
And but by the grace of God, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So yes, I am a miracle.
Yeah. And I do have to ask this question.
Can I come in?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was looking for the link for the book so I can put it in the chat for the show. And guess what? It's number 2 on the bestsellers list.
Oh, wow.
Number
Congratulations.
2. I'll send it to the email. I literally was just looking for the link so that I could share it, so that as we're talking, if people want to go ahead and purchase, it's number 2 on the bestsellers list. So that's great news.
That is amazing.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, you're gonna make me cry. Wow.
And Audra, if we can, I know we don't have any of the co-authors on the show because of the confidentiality factor, but I really want to give a shout to them for their courage, although their identities were not revealed, and that's fine. But just the courage to write, the courage to trust Clarisse and to also trust me and my team to edit the stories, because of course we know who wrote which story, and we didn't publicly announce that. That says a lot. You know, they may not be ready for the world to know, but they still took a very, very huge and bold step to be able to say, I'm going to tell my story for myself, but also for someone else, like we said, because it's going to give someone hope. And we're educating people. Look at what we've talked about here, just in learning, you know, the science and how far we've come. Even like Clarisse said, to know that you can have unprotected sex and not transmit it, that gives people hope who probably never thought that they could get married or have children. And like I said in the book, there are individuals who have children, men and women who have children. So there's life after the diagnosis. There's life after being told that you wouldn't have life. And I want to give a big shout out to all of the co-authors, those who are watching and those who will tune in later. And guess what? You're all best-selling authors now.
Yeah. Wow.
Even behind the scenes, it's still a bestseller.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
So I just want to ask one more question, then we're going to shift gears a little bit. But kind of going back to you being a miracle, but how did you develop trust in the same system that told you were going to die? Because you had to have enough faith to keep taking the medication. But how did you develop that trust in you're going to die? I mean, that was traumatic all to itself, you know?
It was, but my goal in all of this was to live. I wanted to live. And so if they told me I had to take these pills that were going to make me deathly sick, and sometimes the side effects of the medication, there was actually one time that, they were saying there was a medicine that you could take that stopped your heart, and I had very bad mood swings, and I could not go out just, on my own. I had, all kind of side effects from it, but also just the main one I had was where I would just lose control of my bowels, from the medication. But I had to trust the process. I trusted the doctors, but I trusted God. I had to put my life in God's hands. Let me just, God is the reason why I am still here. Yes, I took the medication like I was supposed to, but it was God that performed a miracle. Let me just put it out there. But I had to trust the process. I had to take my medicine. And when I started taking medicine, if they told you had to take it at 8 o'clock in the morning, 12 noon, and 8 o'clock at night, and get up at 2 o'clock and take it again in the morning, guess what? That's how you had to take it. It was very strict. You could not be late with your medicine. You could not miss your medication. I had to take it the way they prescribed it. But I had to know that eventually, if I did what I was supposed to do, that it was going to prolong my life.
Yeah.
And I'm getting all emotional. Wow.
That's okay.
But I knew that if I did it, that, people were going to be helped, and that was my goal. My goal was to live, but I wanted to help, and I wanted to leave a legacy. And me doing what I'm doing for other people and taking the medication, those were all legacies for me, to say that Clarisse Jordan was here, that I matter, and to tell people if I do it, I took it. And so I could tell newly diagnosed people, you can do it too. I know it's not easy. You don't feel well. The medicine made you feel so sick all the time when you were taking that many medications. There are some times that I felt like I couldn't even get my head off the pillow, but I had to dig deep. I tell newly diagnosed people, you have to tap into the inner warrior in you.
Yes.
Because it is a fight. And I had to tap into that inner warrior every day. And I still have to do it to fight, to live. I was determined that HIV was not going to take me out of here.
Yes.
And so I had to fight.
Yeah. You're like I'm gonna call you a trailblazer, because you literally blazed the trail for those coming behind you, because those coming behind you aren't taking those 39 pills a day.
That's right.
You know, so it was almost like you were experimented on to prove that the medication worked or didn't work, or let's do this different. So you really are like a trailblazer
Right.
in this
Right.
work.
When I started taking medicine, you know, they put a list of medications, you know, where people know the medicines and the classifications of the medication. When I started taking medication, there was only maybe like 5 to 7 classifications of HIV medicine that you could take. Now, and Sean can chime in, there's tons of them.
Yeah.
You know, and to go from 39 pills to 1 pill a day that, you know, is a cocktail of medication. It has more than one, you know, it's 1 pill that we take, but it has 3 different medications in it, is just like amazing. And it doesn't have all of those side effects that we used to experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is wonderful.
Wow.
And just to throw another plug in about the science. There's an HIV med that used to be in combination. It's called Descovy, that is now being used to prevent the transmission of HIV. So if you are HIV negative and you're at risk of getting HIV, whether your spouse or partner is positive, or you just don't know your partner's potential status, you can take this pill, this HIV medicine, Descovy. You can take it every day, kind of like birth control, and that will help protect you from getting HIV too. So we have some really good tools. My organization has some really good tools to help put out there and educate people to prevent HIV. So we don't have a cure for HIV, but we have some really good tools to use to prevent HIV and to help people live, healthy in a long time with HIV.
Right. And I was fortunate enough to be on that, on that committee where they were speaking about coming up with medicines and things that you could take to stop HIV from being transmitted into your body. So for that to be here now, that is amazing to me. So
wow. You need to write a book all about that all by yourself. Hey, you got a book all to yourself with just your journey and your process, from the medicine to the emotional side, to the traumatic, to the death sentences. Are you going to write your own book, Clarisse?
I am. I just started talking to Tanya about that. Actually, I just mentioned to her, I think that was Monday, that I have to say that God had given me a title for my book, for my life story book. Yes. So I hadn't even had a chance to talk to Sean. I had just mentioned it via text to Tanya. So hopefully this year.
Okay, well, there goes your confirmation. You don't need nothing else to confirm. You got this. Like, you seriously, like, I just see you, and sometimes I shift gears. So let me just warn you in advance. Sometimes I see things prophetically for people, and I just really see you just changing the world. And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that in the sense, this is a great start. Okay, this is a good start, but just you alone and what you carry by yourself, I'm getting emotional. But just what you carry by yourself, you're gonna change the world.
Wow. Thank you. I received that. I do.
You are. Just by yourself. Woo. Okay, let's shift gears. And so my next question was actually going to be, where you going to write another book? That was my next question.
Life after, not only am I going to write my book, but there are going to be series of life after.
Nice.
When I initially thought about writing the book, it was just going to be one book, to let people know that we are here. But it's kind of turned, it's kind of taken a life of its own, if I could say. And there are going to be series, I don't know how many series, but there are going to be series of Life After.
Yeah.
And now I am in the process. I'll be talking to Tanya, and we are going to turn Life After into a 501c3.
Oh, nice.
So it's kind of taken, and Sean and Tanya said it from the door that they seen this being more than just a book. It's kind of turned into a Life After movement.
Yes. Yes.
So this is not, what I expected, but this is what God has said. So that's where it's going.
Nice. I also see documentaries because people will gain the courage to go on camera. So I do see documentaries coming as well. So be prepared for that. And when you said series, I know you were talking books, but I see series as in TV shows or as in that kind of platform because we need a voice. You need a voice for this. And yes, you'll reach people through books because, again, that's the greatest start you can make. But there's a voice that you are raising up that needs to be heard. And it's going to be heard across all kind of platforms. So just get ready. Get ready. It's coming.
I am. And, it's funny that you would say that because I've been talking to people and I hadn't gotten to talk to Sean. I talked to Sean about everything, but we haven't met. But I wanted to just start a podcast of keeping it real about HIV.
Yeah.
Where there would be, we would just come on and we would just talk the real, about it. I would have nurses and doctors and, Sean and the different executive directors just come on and tell the truth.
Yeah.
People that have, lived with it that are not ashamed to tell it, or have not dealt with the stigma. But just ones of us that are, because I do have some other friends that have, that have lived and they've gone through some things, but they are just as much of a face to it as I am. And I just want to bring us together and just keep it real. I've talked to Tanya about one of the book, another book, with, women, where we take professional pictures and there's our story and our pictures in the book. So there's a lot, that God has really been speaking to me, about doing. And I just, I think every other day I wake up with another idea about where Life After is going. So, the skies are the limit for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So we're going to start wrapping up soon, but what would you encourage before I get into that? I do want to share, we have a comment. I wanted to share it from a Gabrielle Haywood. She said, Clarisse Jordan, truly an inspiration and a testament to the power of purpose.
Wow.
So thank you so much.
That's my aunt.
Oh, nice.
Thank you, Auntie.
So she's watching us and she shared that comment. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. But what kind of words of encouragement would you give someone who's afraid to share their story and afraid of their truth because they may be judged, or because people don't understand, or, I think probably the biggest piece is the judgment piece. And so what would you, what kind of words of encouragement would you give someone afraid to tell their story?
I would first tell them to take it one day at a time. That where they are now, they are not going to be there for long. It took me almost 5 years before I started sharing my story.
Wow.
So allow yourself the time that you need to grieve.
Yeah.
To grieve over the life that you wanted to have. Just to grieve over what has changed in your life. Yeah. But then also to know that you are still that same person. HIV has nothing to do with your integrity or the character of who you are. That doesn't change. HIV is the disease that you have, the virus that you have. You are still the same person. You are still worthy of love. You're worthy, to be happy. You're worthy to sit in your truth and share your truth. And the best thing that you can do is to, whether or not you may not share it the way I do. Everybody is not meant to share it the way I do.
Yeah.
But to live in your truth, this is the virus that you have, and you are still the same person that you always were. And you were still, worthy to be loved. You deserve everything that life has to bring you.
Yes.
So that's what I would tell them, and except living in your truth only comes with a day-to-day acceptance of what you have. You're going to have to sit and look at the good, the bad, and the ugly of everything, and then you'll get to acceptance.
Yes. Nice. So we're going to go ahead and start wrapping up. I know we said that you're not sure about the launch party, so we'll come back at a later time and talk about the actual launch of the book. But the book is already available on Amazon, especially at the number 2 on the bestsellers list.
Wow.
So it sounds like you're already making the impact that the book desires to make. So you can always do a virtual party. I don't know if you thought about doing a virtual.
You know what? Like I said, me and Sean, we're going to get together and we're going to put our heads together and we're going to talk in a virtual party may be what it has to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it can still be all the way live.
Yes.
I think so. I think we can do live. We just need to. We were at another celebration. We have one of our longtime staff, 31 years, is retiring on Friday. So Clarisse, I don't know if you're aware, but Alan is retiring. We tried to do a retirement party for him on Friday. We have to postpone that.
Oh, wow.
Because of that. But hopefully by end of February, middle of March, things will calm down and we can come together. And I want to make this special for Clarisse so that we can have the public come out and have supporters come out and celebrate this achievement and this amazing book that she's put together.
Yes. Awesome. Any final words? Would you like to share anything, Tanya? Any final words?
Sorry, I can unmute myself. Again, I just want to give a shout out to the co-authors. Of course, we'd have them on if they weren't confidential, but out of respect for what the original agreement was, we don't have them here. But the project wouldn't exist without everybody who participated. And I know Clarisse was big on making sure that they understood that in the group. This, even though she's the lead author and the visionary, this was another trailblazing opportunity that she paved the way for them and for others. So I do want to emphasize that all proceeds, 100% of proceeds from the book sales are being donated back to organizations that help and support individuals living with HIV and AIDS. So this is not going into Clarisse's pocket. It's not going into Love Wins or any of the sponsors, allies. We're not getting money from it. Organizations who are supporting those with HIV will get the funding, and there's an advisory committee that's going to make the decision on where that money goes every year. So when you buy the book, you are supporting organizations that are supporting those who are living life after diagnosis. So I'm excited. Clarisse, I'm so proud of you. Sean, it's a pleasure to meet you virtually. We've done a lot of communication over the phone and via email, but I feel like we're just all family, and I can't wait until we can all get together to really celebrate this, because I don't think we've scratched the surface. And I think the pandemic right now may be hindering just a little bit of what the growth can be, but that doesn't mean when it lifts that we can't still take it and run with it, because a book creates a legacy and it's not going anywhere. So even after all this is over, we can do a relaunch and reintroduce things like completely
Yes.
brand new. World AIDS Day is every December. Every December we can relaunch this project, whether it's one book, two, however many she ends up putting out, to really spread the word and educate others. The last thing, I'm sorry, I do want to emphasize to those who are watching the importance of still getting tested. We don't promote getting tested for HIV like we used to back in the day. When I think I was in junior high and high school when it was big and they were promoting the importance of getting tested, but people should still be getting tested. Yes, they have medication that make you undetectable and all those things, and you can have it's about taking care of ourselves, right? Even for Clarisse, she's lived this long because she's taking care of herself.
Right.
Patients are undetectable because they're taking care of themselves. We still have to take care of ourselves. So I want to encourage viewers to get tested. Get tested. Nobody even has to know that you're getting tested.
You're
I'm
hired.
hired.
You're doing my job. You're doing my
I'll
job.
be on Monday.
I couldn't have said that better myself, but thank you for amplifying that message. Yeah.
Yes.
Nice. I just put the link. I know it's an extra large link, but I just put the link in the comments, but it's telling me didn't go through, or maybe it did. I don't know.
To piggyback on what Tanya was saying, for people in our region, our testing is free and confidential at Allies 6 days a week and in the evenings on Wednesdays. But wherever this is reaching, there are organizations just like Allies where you are that do free and confidential testing in a stigma-free place. Please seek them out. And usually when you're there, you can get information about PrEP. You can get information or free condoms, birth control, the whole 9 yards. So reach out to those organizations like Allies, because you'll get what you need there for sure. But get tested. Know your status.
Know your status. That's the best thing you could do is know your status. But I also want to publicly thank you all so much. I want to thank my writers. This was just the ideal I had. You are the writers and my sponsors. You all are the ones that made this book happen. You all took this, this baby, and you ran with it. And I so appreciate my writers, but I appreciate you all, my sponsors. I want people to know I didn't have to put out one dime to write this book because of the three of you all. And I'm getting choked up again, but I want to thank you all so very much for, you didn't know me, but you believed in me, and I appreciate that. And I can't say thank you enough to you all. And my writers, my writers didn't know me from a can of paint. I posted on a social media for people living with HIV, and they believed me, not even knowing me, sight unseen. They believed me and believed in me, and I appreciate that so much, and I value that so much, and I take so much pride in them. I'm so proud of them. Each one of them, I feel like I carry them, they're my babies, and I have to protect them, but I'm so very proud of them. And so I just want to say thank you all so very much.
You're most welcome. I'm glad to have played a small part.
Me too. And it was just a small part for us too, Clarisse.
Yes.
And I have to big shout out to Tanya and your crew for the work you've done. Both of you. I've just been here to say go team. You guys have done all of the heavy lifting, and I'm happy that we're able to contribute in a small part and be a part of this project. So thank you. And Clarisse, you're just a blessing.
And this is just the beginning.
Yes. I can't wait to see what's next.
Right.
Yes, me too. For those who are listening, we appreciate you following us for this last hour. It has been a tremendous blessing just hearing Clarisse's journey and how she has paved the way for so many others in so many ways. So we are so grateful to have her here this evening for the Working Wednesdays broadcast. Continue to share the video. You can share it from the IBG Publications page, as well as my personal page, Audra V. Heard, and my author, Audra Heard page. So it's broadcasted in 3 places. So you're welcome to visit any of those sites and share the video. It will become available on our YouTube channel as well. So you'll be able to catch the replay as well. So it's been a phenomenal night. Clarisse, I just want to give you the last words before we sign off for tonight. What do you want to leave with our viewers?
I want you all to go and purchase the book and support. Yes. And then know your status.
Yes.
And know whatever your status is, there is life after.
Yes. Nice. Wonderful. Wonderful. I love it. So thank you all for joining us tonight. Again, this is the Working Wednesdays broadcast. I am your host, Audra V. Heard. It has been a phenomenal evening. I want to thank all of my guests individually, from Clarisse to Sean to Tanya. Thank you all for coming on and sharing and educating. I'm a teacher by nature, so I'm huge on education. And I believe that we are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Like she said, get tested, know your status, know that there is help out there, and know that it's not a death sentence just because you get the diagnosis. And Clarisse is a huge example of that. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. That's going to wrap our show up. Y'all have a wonderful evening, a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Take care.